Welcome to this video about the nitrogen crisis in the Netherlands. Nitrogen is one of the chemical elements we all need to build proteins and other important body chemicals. This also goes for plants and other life forms. Naturally, nitrogen in the soil is limited. It is a macronutrient, meaning this deficiency limited the yields of agriculture. However, with the large-scale introduction of artificial fertilizer after World War II, there came a way to supplement soil with nitrogen, creating higher yields. But as the saying goes, too much of anything is not good for you. This also goes for nitrogen in the soil. Current levels in soils and water exceed ecological and regulatory limits. It has caused new projects for energy, housing, and aviation to be put on hold. This problem is called the nitrogen crisis in Dutch politics and media. Let's have a closer look at this crisis, what it means, and what we could or should do about it. This is a brief overview of the video contents. Pause the video to see how it's built up. The Dutch environment. The Netherlands literally means the lowlands. Dutch landscape is very flat and mostly formed by three major rivers. Furthermore, 26% of the Netherlands is below sea level, which is caused by peat extraction or achieved through land reclamation. The country has a moderate sea climate with mild winters and cool summers. This map shows the major topsoils. Rivers have largely formed Dutch soils, transporting fertile clay sediments to this delta. The Netherlands also had swamps covered with peat. These areas are drained and partially excavated. They are typically unstable and acidic, making it unsuitable for crop productions and buildings. The eastern and southern part of the Netherlands are largely sandy soils, with some loam in the hilly area of the province Limburg. When it comes to land use, agriculture takes the largest share. If we exclude Dutch waters, 56% of land is used for agriculture. Most of it is directly or indirectly used for animal husbandry. This entails grazing lands, sheds, but also fields with grains to produce animal feed. The Netherlands are the most densely populated country in the European Union after Malta. This means there is a high pressure on the limited land available. Nitrogen becoming a soil threat. Nitrogen exists in various forms. Most commonly, it's N2, dinitrogen, a natural gas that constitutes 78% of the air in our atmosphere. This form is out of scope because it does not react with soil and water. Reactive forms are nitrogen oxides, NOx, and ammonia, NH3. These nitrogen forms naturally have a limited presence in soils and water. As you can see in this graphic, agriculture is the main source for emissions of ammonia, and industry and traffic emit nitrogen oxides into the air. This nitrogen reacts with soil and water and consequently is deposited there in our soils, surface water, and groundwater. An increase of nitrogen in soil and water can lead to toxicity for flora and fauna. It affects biodiversity, soil quality, but also water quality and other aspects of life. We'll discuss these effects further on. Let's have a closer look at the sources of these nitrogen depositions in soil and water. This graph clearly shows agriculture is the largest source, approximately 50%. As previously mentioned, a large part of agriculture in the Netherlands is related to animal husbandry. This sector uses nitrogen-rich animal feed and artificial fertilizer. Another large source is foreign, meaning nitrogen gets carried across borders by air and lands in Dutch soil and water. This is substantial, but it is good to know that also Dutch emissions land across borders. Finally, traffic is one of the three largest contributors. As mentioned, after World War II, production began to rise in the Netherlands, and so did nitrogen emissions, clearly shown in this graph. The past decades, industry and traffic decreased emissions because of cleaner and more efficient installations. Ammonia hasn't decreased as much, illustrated here in red. This illustrates the need for other and new substantial measures for the agricultural sector. Even though there has been a total decrease in the past decades, we should not forget that the nitrogen accumulates over time in soil and water. Even if emissions would be zero from today, it will still take years for nitrogen levels to decrease to natural and healthy levels. To put things into perspective, Here we see that the Netherlands have the highest nitrogen emissions in the European Union. This is largely due to the livestock farming industry, which is the most intensive of the member countries. What are the consequences of business as usual? The EU and its member countries have agreed on protecting nature called the Natura 2000 areas. This map shows nature in the Netherlands heavily influenced by the nitrogen depositions. Too much nitrogen acidifies the soil and water, harming the limited nature that is left in the Netherlands. High levels of nitrogen result in unbalanced soils with deficits in calcium, potassium, and magnesium. The nutrient balance in water is also disturbed as a result of nitrogen in artificial fertilizer and urine leaching to the ground and surface water in the form of nitrate. Some flora and associated fauna cannot handle these nitrogen levels, so biodiversity decreases. Nitrogen oxides in the air lead to ozone, and fine particulate matter can cause health problems to humans and other life. Let's summarize the effects of nitrogen. If we start left, we see nitrogen overload in soil, causing soil to become unbalanced and acidic. Acidic soils have a limited capacity to maintain certain minerals, such as calcium and magnesium. This won't benefit biodiversity, and less biodiversity results in less pollinators, such as bees, but also reduction of microorganisms in the soil. Fertility goes down, and this in turn causes productivity of agricultural lands to decline. It also makes the Netherlands a less attractive and healthy place to live. In the middle, we also mentioned that there is leaching of nitrogen to surface and groundwaters. Nitrogen toxicity makes it harder for specific flora and fauna to thrive, so biodiversity in our waters will decline as well. When it comes to air, the side effect of nitrogen oxides is particulate matter being emitted to the air. This particulate matter can cause damage to health and life expectancy of various life forms. Finally, not abiding by EU laws will result in further restrictions and financial penalties across sectors: agriculture, consumers, retail, healthcare, nature, construction, aviation. These are all stakeholders that will be impacted by nitrogen surplus. So, which measures can we take to restore and protect Dutch soils for the benefit of society and nature as a whole? First, we will discuss some collective measures. Agriculture has a key role in overcoming the nitrogen crisis. As discussed before, this sector is responsible for almost half of nitrogen depositions and is extremely intensive compared to the land and nature available in the Netherlands. Less animal husbandry will reduce nitrogen being added to Dutch soils because we will use less artificial fertilizer for animal feed and less ammonia will be released by livestock eating nitrogen-rich fodder. In general, Dutch agriculture is too intensive and over 70% of production is meant for exports. To protect and recover soil, we need to extensify the sector and move towards more circular agriculture to stop surpluses of nitrogen and other nutrients coming into the soil and water. The inputs should be balanced with outputs that are within physical limits of the soil. Traffic is reducing nitrogen emissions already because of technological innovations. We can do this even more by stimulating electrification by using subsidies and restrictions. When it comes to foreign emissions, the Netherlands and neighboring countries need to collaborate in reducing nitrogen use. Most nitrogen travels through air within a range of 250 kilometers. Apart from these measures, the Netherlands and partnering countries need to develop a cohesive strategy for the coming decades. As you might have noticed, there are various interrelations between major challenges such as food security, soil, water, and air quality, but also climate adaptation. Stakeholders need to have some certainty on where to invest and need to be involved intensively to come up with solutions that benefit society and nature as a whole. We can start today, for example, by making the individual choice of consuming less meat and dairy and more vegetables and fruits. That way, we need less space per person to feed ourselves, and we can spare this land for other purposes, such as nature and housing. To conclude, the coming slides contain the information sources used. Please consult these for further details. I hope this case study has provided you with the insights to solve or avoid a nitrogen crisis in your community. Thank you very much.